Hi, Catherine. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. To start, I like that a lot of this movie is a woman who has writer's block and is like trying to find some way of getting over it. So I wanted to ask you, for you, what for you is that feeling where you're like, okay, I have to figure this thing out, but it's going to take me forever because with acting, it's very, very different, obviously, than writing.
It is. It is. And I've experienced it before. There's some characters that you have to find that one thing that kind of unlocks them.
Mm.
And sometimes those characters are so far from who you are that it takes a minute to learn how to love them. And it takes a minute to figure out what that one thing is. Because once you have that, it's like a key and it just
Mm.
unlocks everything. And I think that's what Heather is trying to find in this film is a way to sort of reset and reimagine what she needs to do. And she's been through so much in her life, whether it's the success of her book or the loss of her mother or whatever it may be, she really has to figure out what her next chapter is. And the not knowing is almost the scarier thing. So she chooses to dive headfirst into this ranch in Montana and see where it takes her.
Yeah, well, and I wanted to ask because it's very funny. As I was watching this movie, I was at Fantastic Fest, which I saw you running around the entire time. And
Yeah.
then it was so funny because I flew to do a junket and then I came back and you liked randomly the picture of me from the junket. And I was like, this is so weird because I literally just saw her running
That's
around
cool.
Fantastic Fest. But all of that made me think about like how these three kind of come to Montana and it's like they're like the fish out of water, which I feel like is very much like when people go to these film festivals like that, they try and like play up where they are and it's like why just like go and be yourself. How much fun though was it to get to lean into, the fact that they're like, we're gonna wear cowboy boots and hats and like look cool, and that whole town is like, don't do that.
I took so much glee because I'm from Kansas City originally.
Mhm.
I took so much glee in how wrong they got it for so long. They were trying so hard and thought like, we're gonna do this thing, we're gonna do the cowgirl cosplay, it's gonna be great, and then just fell flat on their faces. But that's something I loved about being able to take this, this classic format and this classic love story from the Harlequin romance kind of archives,
Mhm.
modernize it in such a way. They let us go so far with the comedy and really modernize it in these fresh female perspectives and kind of make it a new, fresh take on a story that we all know and love.
Wait, especially because it didn't even occur to me until right now that I was like, oh, this is like the cowboy romance novel. Like that never occurred to me because I was just like, this is like a cute rom-com, and I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. It's the cowboy romance trope thing come to life. But when you get to play into those tropes, how was it like working to figure out like, okay, we have to make this a little bit tropier because people are going to be looking for this thing versus, getting to just let these characters kind of fall in love with each other.
I mean, I'm a hopeless romantic, so I sort of love those things. And if we've done it right, hopefully it will feel like those things are natural and kind of do fit into the framework of
Mm.
Heather's love story. And something I loved so much about their love story is the fact that they have a familiarity because they knew each other as kids, and yet they're such different people and they have such different priorities and perspectives and ways of looking at life, and they just butt heads until they headbutt each other right out of their comfort zones and somehow fall head over heels in love, because that stepping out of that comfort zone brings this vulnerability that they only have with each other. And there's certain things and they have these quiet moments that they just end up sharing things that I don't think they've shared with anyone else.
Yeah, when you also get to share a scene with a pig. And I thought it was so fun because I'm like, well, this is very clearly like not doesn't have a budget for that to not be an actual pig. Like that's a literal pig
Yeah.
running around. How was it to like, obviously that makes the feel more authentic because you have a literal pig running around. But
Oh,
how
yeah.
was it like figuring out like, all right, well, we have to act with a giant pink pig in the middle of this scene and make it look real?
There was a lot of the pig's name was George, by the way. George was a very,
Oh
very
wow.
professional and a wonderful scene partner. George's trainers were awesome. They taught me a lot. I had to earn George's respect. And after a couple cheese cubes, a rice cake, and a few freeze-dried strawberries, we were old friends. But
George.
no, a lot of it was us kind of working with George and letting George do what George wanted to do, and we sort of tailored things to George's preferences, as one sometimes has to do on set for their fellow actors. But also, George did a great job. He did his thing. He snuffled around, made us laugh, and was a little bit intimidating. And then we came to an understanding. And I think, you know, Heather and Molly have their own little love story happening.
They do. Well, she has to earn Molly's respect. And I was
Yeah,
like, well, that kind of rules that Molly is the king of the roost.
they gotta work out
But
their own dynamic.
well, and I wanted to ask you too, because you said you're from Kansas City. How was it then to get to like when you go into a movie like this and they label you as the city girl? Is that fun to get to play like where like this was never me, but now it is?
It's very weird. It's so fun. But I have to tell you, one of the hardest things I ever had to do was wear that cowboy hat backwards. It felt so wrong. It was so distracting. And it was funny because some of the crew, didn't realize that we were doing it as a joke. And people kept telling me, they're like, oh no, your hat's on backwards. Yeah. And I'm like,
I know.
no, and I know that it's so wrong, and I know it's bad luck, and I know it's awful, and it feels wrong and horrible, and it's taking everything in my being not to flip this hat around, but I'm doing it for the good of the movie. But somehow I got through it.
Well, I also love that she wears like white cowboy boots. I was like, girl, in what world was that ever a good idea to go to a ranch? And you're like, let me put on white cowboy boots.
Never a good idea. And suede and fur, and
Yeah, the
there's
fur.
mud. Like, sweetheart, just put on some jeans and a flannel and call it a day, get a shovel and get in line. But Heather doesn't know any better, and she's trying. And I think the fact that we see her grow so much and kind of let down her guard and let down all the things that she was using to shield herself from what she actually needed to face
Mhm.
is a really beautiful journey.
Yeah. And how is it for you? Like, because I found it really interesting that she was so quick to be like, okay, cool. Like, I'm gonna fix this fence. Like, it was like very quick that she was just like, I gotta fix some stuff. Great. Let me put the fence back up. And there wasn't like the like stereotypical, like, oh no, I don't want to fix things. I don't want to touch it part of her. She just instantly dove in. When you get stuff like that in a script, how much does that tell you about a character that she's just willing to be like, if it needs fixed, I'll fix it. I don't care.
I think where that came from essentially is Heather is so stubborn that she
Mhm.
would rather do something that maybe grosses her out, something that's hard and something she's never done and will probably fail at, than face the things that she's avoiding. She so desperately wants to avoid writing her novel. So desperately wants to avoid thinking about her mom. She's like, I will go out and I will build that gross fence and I will do the thing. I've never held a hammer in my life, but I use command hooks, but I'm gonna make it happen because I don't want to face my writing. And that's why we actually threaded in so much of that conversation with her girlfriends, because those friendships, those are the people that will support you and be there for you and build that fence with you 100%.
Mhm.
But they're going to tell you that you should be writing, and they're going to call you out on the things that you should be thinking about and should be realizing. And that's, seeing those friendships build and be so strong in the film was really gorgeous as well.
Well, I wanted to ask too, because I saw your tattoos when we started talking, and I have a bunch. They're all just like on my arm.
Ah, so
But
cool.
with actors when they have tattoos, I'm like, okay, well, how much do you have to either justify a character having tattoos like yours or commit to sitting in a makeup chair? And like for Heather, what was it like figuring out like, all right, does she have my tattoos? Does she not? What do I have to do now to like not have these?
We took them away for Heather. I
Mhm.
think some of them. I can't remember. I think there were some we covered and some we
Yeah, I
didn't.
didn't see them. That's why I was like, oh, did I miss the tattoos? Or like what was that on me? But then I saw them right now.
No, no, no. It takes a minute to cover them. Mine are so little. They take like
Mhm.
5 minutes to cover. And so we have a very talented team of makeup artists that took, their 5 minutes to do it in the morning, which was great. And then you don't really have to think about it much for the rest of the day. I'm not as covered as some actors are, and I know that's quite the undertaking, but I do try and slip them in to jobs where I can because I think it's fun to. I even like adding tattoos for characters. That's kind of, since Shadowhunters, it's
Mhm.
become really and Arrow as well.
Mhm.
Me was covered in tattoos, and we just never saw them because she was always in the suit or a jacket. But it's interesting to kind of see, well, what would this person put on their skin, and what would this person choose to hold on to for the rest of their lives?
Yeah. Well, and for our last question I want to ask is obviously this is a girl trying to figure out like, all right, I'm writing this novel about leaving New York and going to Montana and figuring out who I am. If you had the chance to sit and you were like, I'm gonna write a novel and it's all about me and my personal journey, where would you let yourself go physically? Like where would you, what city, what place would you want to take yourself to in order to like be in the right mindset to work on said novel?
It depends because there's a lot of places. I think I'd have to travel a
Mm,
lot because I've traveled a lot, and different places make me feel different things and make me realize different things and kind of highlight different aspects of myself. So, I'd have to go to Kansas City. I'd have to go to the small town that my family used to go to every summer. I'd have to go to New York. I'd have to go to Nashville. I'd have to go to London. I'd have to, go to Paris. I'd have to go to a lot of places. But I think that could be really fun.
yeah. I was like, oh, let me go. Because I like my friend, my roommate has like a house in Maine, and I literally was like, I want to go and just like sit there and write. And I was like, that's one of my Stephen King. But like go sit somewhere in Maine and write a novel. But yeah. Thank you for talking with me today. I really appreciate it. Truly and honestly, the Austin stuff was the funniest thing. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why she liked this. Let's go. Like I saw her running around, but it
That's
was great.
Oh, thank you. I had a great time in Austin. I thought that was such a fun festival, and
Oh,
and
it's
thanks
great.
for participating.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today, and I can't wait for everyone to get to see the movie.
Thank you so much.
You have a great one.
Bye.